Soon after Paddington went to live at number 32 Windsor Gardens, Mr. and Mrs. Brown gave him a basket on wheels. The Browns' house was near the Portobello Road, where there was a large market, and every morning Paddington went there to do his shopping. After calling at the baker's, where he had a standing order for buns, he then went on to see Mr. Gruber, his friend who kept an antique shop. Paddington liked Mr. Gruber's shop. It was so full of things, it was like Aladdin's cave. Every day Mr. Gruber made some cocoa, and they had their 11s together. One morning, however, Paddington had a surprise. When he reached the shop, he found Mr. Gruber busy painting up his shutters.
It's Easter Monday, Mr. Brown, and it's such a lovely day. I thought I'd take you, Jonathan and Judy, on a mystery outing.
Paddington was very excited. He hurried back home to tell the others, and then he began making some marmalade sandwiches. He soon had so many he could hardly close the lid of his suitcase. Later that morning, they set off, and Mr. Gruber found them a seat right in front of the bus so that he could point out the interesting sights on the way. They had been travelling for quite a while when Jonathan and Judy suddenly let out a cry.
I know where we're going,
said Judy as they turned a corner.
It's the Tower of London,
exclaimed Jonathan. Paddington had never been to the Tower of London before, and he was most impressed. It was much, much bigger than he had pictured. As they reached the entrance, a man in a strange uniform stepped up forward to take their tickets.
That's one of the Beefeaters. They look after the tower,
whispered Jonathan.
They're really yeoman warders. But they get called beefeaters because in the old days they used to taste all the royal food to make sure it was safe to eat,
explained Judy. Paddington raised his hat politely and then opened his suitcase.
Would you like one of my marmalade sandwiches? I expect it will make a nice change from beef,
he asked.
A marmalade sandwich?
Spluttered the beefeater. He held the object up between his thumb and forefinger and then stared at it as if he could hardly believe his eyes. But when he looked down again at Paddington, he had gone. Taking one look at the expressions on the man's face, he picked up his suitcase and hurried after the others. Several more sandwiches dropped out on the way, but by then he was too upset to notice. Mr. Gruber hastily led them through an arch. When they were safely round the corner, he stopped by a large cage.
This is where they keep the ravens, Mr. Brown,
he said.
They've always had the ravens here, and it is said that if they ever fly away, then the tower will fall down.
Paddington peered at the empty cage.
Perhaps we better go soon, Mr. Gruber,
he said anxiously. Mr. Gruber laughed.
I don't think there's any fear of it happening just yet, Mr. Brown. That tower looks very solid to me.
He pointed towards a large black bird standing watching them.
Besides, there's at least one raven keeping an eye on things.
He looks as if he's got his eye on Paddington,
said Judy. Next, Mr. Gruber took them to a room deep under the ground.
This is where the crown jewels are kept. They are made of gold and they are very valuable. That's why they are kept behind glass,
whispered Judy. Mr. Gruber showed them St. Edward's crown, the orb and the sceptre, and the ampulla and spoon for the holy oil.
They were all used by the Queen at her coronation. The crown has over 400 precious stones and it weighs nearly 5 pounds,
he explained. Paddington's eyes grew larger and larger. He could quite see why no one wanted the tower to fall down. When they came out of the jewel house, Paddington noticed a strange thing. There were 2 ravens watching him. A moment later, 2 more arrived, and all 4 stared at him as he went past. Paddington gave them a hard stare back, but for once it didn't seem to have any effect.
Perhaps we'd better have our picnic outside by the river. They won't follow you out there,
said Judy, when she saw the worried look on Paddington's face. But the ravens did not follow Paddington, and by the time they reached the gate, there were so many he'd nearly lost count.
And where do you think you're going with our ravens, young fellow me bear?
Asked the beefeater in charge.
He's not going anywhere with them. They're going with him,
said Jonathan and Judy.
It makes no difference. I'm not letting them leave here and risk having the place fall down. That bear will have to stay in a tower until we've decided what's best.
Oh, crikey! Fancy Paddington being sent to the tower!
Suddenly, Mr. Gruber had an idea. You know what? I don't think it's Mr. Brown they're after at all. I think it's his sandwiches. Paddington gazed at Mr. Gruber in astonishment.
My sandwiches!
He exclaimed hotly. But Mr. Gruber was right. Sure enough, as soon as Paddington opened his suitcase, all the ravens gathered round and began picking at the contents.
All these years I've been here, and I never knew ravens liked marmalade.
He looked at Paddington with new respect.
Perhaps you should give me your address, sir. Then, if any of our birds ever get lost, we can send for you. We may even be able to find you a special jar of marmalade to keep by you in case it's needed in a hurry.
Trust Paddington to get sent to the tower and then end up with a jar of marmalade.
Paddington looked at it happily.
If I'm going to be a marmalade eater, perhaps I'd better test it now, just to make sure.